Hey artists, I hope you're ready for our very first project. I want to tell you a little bit about this project. You're going to watch a video that talks about the type of artwork we're going to be creating, and then you'll have some time to practice. And the next video that we get put out, you guys will be starting to create your artwork. Right now we're going to be focusing on the type of work you're creating, which is going to be a landscape, and we're going to be focusing on the parts of the work that are going to make your piece really stand out. Before we talk about that, I want to just let you know that this is the project that is going to be used for the Original Works art fundraiser. And those of you who have been in art class before and been in my art class remember that the Original Works art fundraiser is the program that I run where the artwork gets sent in to the Original Works company. They then will scan your work, and if you choose, you can order your work on, say, cups or magnets. You can get yourself your own sketchbook, and it's with your artwork on it. We use this program a lot to save money and use that money for supplies. So we'll use throughout the year. It's a really cool project, and that's what we're going to be using this landscape for. That's your Original Works project. So just so we're all together on our first artwork, we are making a landscape. And a landscape is a type of art that focuses on really not man-made structures, but things that are natural parts of our scenery on the earth. So we know that there are different types of landscapes in our world. We happen to live in the Sonoran Desert, but there are lots of different areas that classify as landscape. You can have the mountains, you can have the oceans, you can have the jungle, lots of different types of biomes, shall we say, that make up our earth. And the landscape paintings that you will see focus on a certain type of environment. When you look at what I'm going to show you, I want you to see if you can find these things. I want you to try to locate the background, which is the parts of a landscape that are the furthest away from your viewer. They're going to be above the horizon line. They're going to be in the back. You're going to have what's called the middle ground. Okay, that's the mid-range scene between the background and what we then call the foreground. And the foreground is the stuff that's in the landscape that's the very closest to you in the picture. So let's take a look at some examples, and so you can really see how artists use these three divisions inside their work.
Here's a Vincent van Gogh painting. This is a landscape. You can see this because it's of the outdoor natural scenery. Here's another Van Gogh. I want you to notice that the background and the middle ground, and here we have the foreground, are the three separate sections. Here's another painting by Ted Harrison, who's a Canadian landscape painter. And check it out. The background by the sky, the middle ground here by the lake and the hills, and the foreground up in the front with the person are all present. One of the things that's really cool about Ted Harrison is his use of line throughout his work. You can see all different types and styles of line in this painting. Let's try some of our own. I want you to take out your sketchbook and get a pencil ready. Go ahead and pause the video. When we start thinking about line, I want you to keep it simple. You're going to be breaking up your landscape using these really easy, simple types of line. And in your sketchbook, I want you to practice the different types. We see that number 1 and 2 are horizontal lines. Number 3 and 4 are vertical lines, and we have some crisscrossing happening on number 4. Number 5 and 6 are curvy lines. 7 and 8 are sharp and pokey. 9 and 10 are curly, and 11 and 12 are the difference between thick and thin. Lastly, 13 and 14, we have the broken line and the dotted line. Go ahead and give it a try. Now that you see the different types of line in your sketchbook, can you identify some in this painting? They're all over the place.
You've got now 14 different types of line that you can use in your sketchbook and eventually use in your final project. So for your pause project, I want you to take out your sketchbook that you have, and I want you to divide your paper into fours, and let's get started creating some very simple landscapes.
This is called a pause project because after this part is done, I want you to pause the video and try this work in your own sketchbook. I want you to make sure that you've got a nice pencil and it's got an eraser because we're definitely going to be doing some erasing. Divide your sketchbook into 4 sections, and honestly, it doesn't need to be done with a ruler. You can start off with any one of the squares. I'm going to start up at the top here. When you begin your work, I want you to start up with a light line somewhere in the middle and label it number 1, the horizon line. This is where visually the sky is going to meet the earth. At the top, you can include things that you would see in the sky. So I've included a gigantic sun with huge rays of light. Next, I've moved on to some hills, and I'm using my eraser here to take away that horizon line. All of a sudden, those hills that I just created are now starting to move forward in the space of my drawing. I'm adding some curvy lines and having a really good time with creating those mountains. You can see now I've labeled this section number 2. That's the background. In the front here, I'll put a big cactus, a saguaro cactus to be exact. I'm going to erase these lines of the hills that are running through it, and boom, I've overlapped inside my drawing. The eraser is awesome for doing that. You're going to I put some bushes here. I've added some more simple line work just for some visual interest. I'm going to label these other sections just like I did with number 1 and 2. This is going to be section number 3, the middle ground, right? That's between the background and what we're going to call number 4, the foreground. It's really important that you label each one of these sections in each landscape that you do so you can get in the practice of making sure that you have those parts. One of the reasons I start with that number 1, the horizon line, is to give me a sense of where my viewer is looking. You can see I've had different types of landscapes and I'm trying out lots of things. You have this section and more to try out different types of environments. Have fun, take your time, and make sure you've got a good eraser.
All right, so you guys have got your pause project in your sketchbook, which is 4 sketches of landscape. What I want you to remember is that in our sketchbooks, you're labeling, like I showed you, the 4 parts, the horizon line. I want you labeling the background, the foreground, and the middle ground. And then I want you to practice, if you want, what you're going to do for your final. And this upcoming week, we're going to get started with our final project for the original works. And I'll let you know right now that eventually we are going to be using black crayons and watercolor. And so if you can find those 2 things, that would be awesome. I will be supplying you the paper. And if you don't have either one of those materials, if you don't have black crayon that you can get a hold of, and you don't have a watercolor palette and brush, you need to email me, right? We talked about this. I can't help you if you don't let me know. So email me and I will make sure you get those media. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Send me pictures of your pause project. I want to see it. We'll see you next week.